If you've ever wondered what it's like moving to Germany, then hopefully this video will help you. Hi, my name is Georgia and I'm a British expat living in Germany. I've been here 21 years. Now let's backtrack a little bit because I never intended to be here for 21 years. My company I was working for in London at the time from 2000 onwards decided in 2003, just like that they'd move to Munich. It was a Detroit-based company. They had an office in London and they just opened one in Munich. And then our big bosses in the States went, there's Europe, why don't you move to that office and make it happen? So basically everyone had to scramble and see who would move to Munich. Only two of us from the office came, myself, because I spoke German, and an American gentleman who had a work visa with the company and essentially was tied to the job, so he had to move. He's now back and retired in the States already, many years. I did actually grow up in Germany. For those who are new to this channel, sorry, that's the washing machine gurgling. We have slightly dodgy pipes. I was actually born in Germany. I was born in the Black Forest in 1975. So this year is going to be the big 5-0 for me. I lived here till I was 12. And then my parents, who are both British, moved back to the UK in 1987. So I moved to England for the first time to live there when I was 12 and a half, which was kind of tough. I did do another video about belonging and my story about never feeling really anything, never feeling properly British, never feeling properly German. And I'm still there. I'm still at this waypoint where I'm not quite sure what I am, but I'm getting happier with who I am because I know I'm not the only person in the world to feel like this. There are many, many people who feel like they don't belong to one, but actually at the same time you belong to multiple places, people, cultures, countries, which is actually better if you really look at it that way. So I spent 12 years in Germany and now I've spent 21 years in Germany, which makes 33. So you take that away from 49, that means I've spent 33 years in Germany and 16 years in the UK. We came over when I was 28. You wouldn't think I'd spent only 16 years in the UK and 33 in Germany, but my accent, I think my mannerisms, tea that I drink in very large amounts. I basically want to talk about the ins and outs of moving to Germany if you're considering either coming here long term, travelling through, or coming to live permanently. There's a lot to think about, but there's also some great things about the country as well. All right, let's start first of all with who can come and live and work in Germany. I'm going to keep it quite simple today. Let's start who can come and live in Germany. If you have an EU passport, then you have no problem. You can come, live, move here, even claim benefits pretty much immediately, no questions asked. And that's how we came over back in 2003, because obviously the UK was part of the EU back then. But Brexit being the gift that keeps on giving, it's no longer part of it. I am lucky enough to now have double citizenship, dual citizenship. I have a German and a British passport. Both our kids have both passports as well. My husband only has a British passport because we didn't get all our stuff together in time, but he can still apply for dual citizenship because he's been here so long now. It's quite a new law that they do this. For British people, there's a bit of an exception, but it should still be possible for him, I think, because of our longevity in this country. He carries a special Brexit card, which he has to show if he gets stopped by the police, which so far he hasn't yet, ever. So if you are European, you can come and live here. If not, you need some kind of visa, work visa, depending on what country you're from. German bureaucracy, when you register, is pretty hardcore though. That's for everyone who comes here. First of all, you have to register within, I think, 7 days. It could be 14 in different states. I think they're all a little bit different. I'm in Bavaria, and Bavaria likes to think of itself as its own country, although it is part of Germany as well. There is a bit of snobbery that goes on here because it's the richest state. This is obviously where Munich is, the Oktoberfest. A lot of money comes to the country through Bavaria, and it's a very beautiful place as well. You have to register. You have to go to the Einwohnermeldeamt, which is the citizens registration place. There's a big main one in the city, but they do have smaller ones dotted around the outskirts, and each smaller town has their own as well. And you have to make an appointment generally, and appointments are hard to come by, and they're often not open past 11 in the morning, 7 till 11, let's say, 2 mornings a week or something ridiculous like that. You have to register, and only then can you get a rental contract to get a job, to rental contract to live, and also often to get a job. But quite often you can't get a rental contract because you haven't registered, and then you can't register if you haven't got somewhere to live and a rental contract. So it can be like a double-edged sword. What came first, the rental contract or the registration? So it can be tricky. It's obviously people manage it. I'm here. I did have a job at the time, so that does help. We had a relocation company that moved us, although the lady was not particularly good. I'll talk about her a little bit later. But once you've registered, you will then get your ID. If you're European, you just get a bit of paper that says you've registered with your address. If you're non-European, you get a little photo ID, something, because you're expected to carry ID with you at all times. If you're stopped by the police, you need photographic ID to show who you are with your address on it, where you live as well. I've never been stopped by the police, except when I was speaking on my phone once in a parked car. But even then, they just want to see my driving licence, which I guess has a photo, so ignore that. I have been stopped once in 21 years. And then I got a point on my licence because I talked back to them, but that's another story. So don't mess with the police. The police have no sense of humour, really no sense of humour. They can be very nice if they're on your side, but if not, they especially love to stop people speeding in places where they have building sites, but they don't care about people speeding through red lights at the end of the road where our kids' school is, and kids almost get run over by cars who just go, oh no, it's fine, I can speed through. It's an ongoing nightmare for me, the way they speed through red lights, and you have very few cameras on red lights. Finances, currency and cost of living. So Germany has the euro, which is the EU-wide currency in many countries. France, Spain, Italy, lots of other countries. I can't think of them all, but you can look it up anyway. So personally, I think it's great that we have the euro, because if you travel to France for the weekend, we have friends who've got a cottage there. We sometimes stay with them. You don't have to change your money. When we were kids and we used to drive to England once a year, we'd go from Germany through to France, through to Belgium, and then get the ferry across from Zeebrugge. So we'd have to change money up for francs and for whatever the Belgian currency was at the time, as well as have our marks, as well as then have pounds when we went to the UK. My parents always had these just bags of change that they used. Obviously, you never use it up. So the beauty of A, digital payments, and B, the same currency, is it can't be taken away. That to me is amazing. Even if it's just stopping at a service station and paying €1 for your kids to go to the toilet, or buying a hot drink, or petrol even, or tolls, or anything, you know, it's really good. It's really good having the same currency. Cost of living in Germany, it depends where you live. Rent can be very high. Munich has very high rents. Munich has very high cost for buying houses and very high rents. We pay a lot. We rent a little 2-bedroom house as a family of 4. Used to be 5, but the little cat, unfortunately, he died. I did post about little Jimmy about a month ago. He got run over. So it's 4 of us now in a 2-bedroom house. It's a small 2-bedroom house as well. It's pretty cozy, and we have a very small garden. I mean, you can see the end of the fence there. I've got done my washing. And that's the back garden, basically. You've seen it in some other videos if you've watched me before. We have a small courtyard at the front. I've got a little greenhouse there and a shed, and our bikes are parked there, but nothing else more really. It's small, but we're lucky we have a house. Most people actually live in flats. The ground floor flats with gardens, which is nice. We had this when we first moved here, or flats with balconies or without. The second place we lived at was a city flat, a little 1-bedroom place with a balcony, which was a cool little city cool place. But then my daughter was born. We lived on the 3rd floor without an elevator, and by the time I was pregnant with our second kid, I just went, I can't do this. We need to have a ground floor flat or a house. We never intended to actually have a house and to be this far out, but actually now I wish we were even further out, because I can't stand going to city. I cannot handle everything, the dirt, the people, the noise, the traffic. Cost of living, yep, very expensive in Munich. But wages generally pay more in Munich. It's like the London waiting thing. You do have higher income, higher expenditures. A lot of American companies are based here as well. So you can get a job with no German knowledge, really. I've worked in a lot of companies where the company language is English. Even though a lot of German people work there and speak German to each other. I worked for a couple of Chinese companies where we had Chinese people who only spoke Chinese, at Mandarin or Cantonese and English. Very minimal German. French people who spoke pretty much no German, or Italians even, our common language was English. or if you spoke a bit of French, something. And I loved it when all the little groups of people would get together. The Italians would get together after lunch and have their espressos in the kitchen, and it's a really nice thing having different people from different cultures working in one company. That I kind of miss that, because it's mostly Germans where I work now. Plus we do a lot of home office, so actually I'm kind of on my own even if I go to the office. It's just a different location rather than at home all the time, which I think is mentally good. Yeah, so cost of living, high. If you go to Berlin, it's getting higher, but it used to be more affordable. I know people who had flats as big as this house for 300 euros a month. I mean, we pay, I'm not going to say 10 times as much, but we definitely don't pay twice as much. We pay a lot more than that. Location. We used to pay a lot less in our flat in the city. I think we paid 800 a month in 2009 when we moved there. It's a little 55 square metre, 1-bedroom flat, but it wasn't in great condition, and it was perfect for the 2 of us, and then 3 of us, and then a bit tight. But if you go to East Germany, there's a lot of unemployment still, the former East Germany, let's say. A lot of them voted for the AfD as well, the far-right group that stood in their last elections. And if you look at the maps that indicate this, you basically have all of red for the former East Germany and mostly blue for the former West Germany. So the countries are still very divided because they're financially divided. Economically, they don't do that well. There are no jobs there. There's no infrastructure really. It's up and coming, I know that, but it's been a long time since 1989. And I feel like Germany is a little bit behind on that. So it does depend on where you live. There's no one answer, cost of living and everything. It can be great depending where you are, depending on your income. You know, if you work remotely and you earn a good salary, you could buy yourself a mansion in former East Germany. It would be great. I kind of don't want to go there. We've talked about moving further there, but I am tied to my job a little bit. And even though I could have done before when I lost my job 5 years ago, when I could have worked from anywhere, I'm glad we were still based here, because I then was able to get another job within the industry that paid kind of okay. In the city, if I'd been 5 hours towards the east, there's no way I would have got a job like that, not remotely, definitely not. So cost of living, also talking about food and things, has gone up a lot in last few years, like in every country in the world. We used to go to this favourite little Italian place in town before we had kids, and we'd have a starter, a main course each. I'd have a large glass of wine, my husband would have 2 beers, and it would come to 20 euros. It was just under, we'd give them 20, which included the tip. It was just incredible. Like, we had a great life because we had a small flat, we didn't pay much rent, we didn't have kids or any expenses, and we both worked full time. We used to go out all the time. We ate out all the time. We drank too much. I mean, the alcohol consumption was definitely a bit of an issue back then. I hardly drink now at all. I haven't drunk for weeks now. I've had maybe 3 drinks this year alone, like since Christmas. And I feel good for it. I feel better. I do look tired today. That's because it's back to school after 2 weeks Easter holidays. And the kids went to bed at 10 o'clock last night. It's terrible. We've been going to bed so late. It slowly creeps up on us. And rather than sleep till 8 o'clock like they have been, they had to be up at 6. So we were all a little bit tired this morning. But the day will be over. Not soon enough. But then we can have an early night tonight because we're all going to be tired. But again, I digress. Food has got more expensive, even supermarkets. We do shop at quite reasonably cheap ones. I switch it up, it depends what we want. But our weekly shopping budget has definitely increased because it just gets more expensive all the time. But still a lot cheaper than England. I go to England and I'm overwhelmed by these beautiful supermarkets, these huge Tesco's and Sainsbury's, where you have an entire row of cereals and another entire row of tea bags, and I always go straight for the tea bags and chocolate bars to bring home, and sometimes I can't handle it. I'm overwhelmed with the choice and I don't know what to get, and I don't know what's cheapest but what's most reasonable, and I just don't know. I just sort of blindly pick something because I can't handle it suddenly, because here the supermarkets are a lot smaller. You do have a couple like Kaufland, which is very big, but then they're always really full, and also people again, trolleys bashing into you. Supermarkets are small. Stock control is diabolical. You'll often go and find an entire shelf empty because they just haven't got stock control. Don't know whether it's done from that location centrally. Either way, they just have really bad stock control. When you get to the exit at most of these supermarkets, you have the till, and then you just have a little shelf and a drop-off point, and they go bash, bash, bash. And if you don't pack your shopping fast enough, it will end up on the floor. and they really do it. It's happened to me many times. So you have to have your trolley there. You either pile it all in the trolley, or you stick it in your bag, or I get the kids to try and help me, quick, and it's a very anxiety-inducing experience. In England, when we lived there, I'd only just passed my test, so I could drive to the supermarket every Saturday. I made it my thing. It was the best experience. I loved it. I took my time. I could put the shopping in the car, not have to get the bus home or taxi or something, or walk like at university with a rucksack full of full of shopping. And I loved it. It was a really nice experience. And if you're lucky, someone even helps pack your shopping, and they talk to you and they wait until you finish packing, and then you pay. I mean, anyone who lives in the States, the UK, knows this experience. Anyone who lives in Germany or has lived here knows the other experience of don't pack fast enough, it's on the floor. Don't pay fast enough, the people behind you start tutting and going, hey, yeah, you know, was ist los? And all that. And they go, zweite Kasse, open a second till up. If there are too many people in the queue, it's massively anxiety inducing, and I find it very, very stressful. And I often don't do any shopping on Saturdays until about 5 or 6 p.m. because I go when I have to go. Shops open till 8 o'clock, and then it's really busy. So it's stupid. I should go at 7 in the morning when it's not busy, but I just don't have the energy and the mental bandwidth to deal with the unpleasantness that is going food shop. So health insurance, yay, my favourite topic. I'm constantly in trouble because of the health insurance. Now, it's mandatory to have health insurance in Germany. You can choose between state or private, but you have to pay it. The difference is that if you're state, you are assigned certain doctors, dentists, specialists, depending on what insurance you have, what kind of coverage you have. You choose the kind of coverage you have. Most people have to pay extra for dental because that's not really covered much apart from checkups. If you're private, you can basically take your pick of the lot. Again, you have different levels that you pay for, but you can essentially have anyone. We used to all be private. Our relocation agent, I think we were her first people because she was worse than useless. We ended up with a flat in an area we didn't want, paying a lot more money than we wanted, and it was smaller. All of it was not what I'd intended, even though I remember emailing her explicitly about details. Pipes. I didn't realise my pipes made this much noise because normally there's so much going on in this house. So now it's just me and a video recording. I can hear every single noise. And I shut the door because the birds are making quite a lot of noise today. Although bird sound is preferable over gurgling pipes while the washing machine goes. So health insurance, we were all private, and my husband was freelance. He could have opted out, I think. He was freelance for years, doing local crew and film work and things like that. But we didn't know about it because you just can't find out this information quite often. It's only if you're actually German. There are people now that offer service for expats. Hey, I can help with paperwork, because the admin of life in Germany is a full-time job in itself. And like I said, I find it very hard to deal with it. I have slight, almost PTSD anxiety about even opening the post. Our post box is quite often full and I have to open it all at once because there will be something in there that was unexpected that I didn't expect from a medical bill or something. So if you're state, everything's covered. You pay, I don't know, €5 per prescription, but everything is covered with it. If you're private, then you go to the doctor you want to go to, you get the invoice, and then you have to pay that and have it reimbursed from your medical insurance. If they're good, then they'll reimburse the money within a week and you can pay it from that money. If they're not so good, which is mine, it can take between 6 and 8 weeks, by which point you've got reminders, which then have an extra €2.50 on top or something, or even another reminder, a third reminder. They can go pretty quickly. It can escalate very quickly if you don't pay things on time. Excuse me. So yes, it can escalate quite quickly, and then even better, they don't cover everything. So again, it depends what kind of insurance you have, but if you don't check out first whether they cover what you're doing, don't get treatment, because you may end up with a really large bill of, 50, 100, even hundreds, just extortionate amounts. Here's a small example. I broke my ankle back in 2010, I think it was 2010, when I started running the first time properly. And I overtrained because I loved running. I got into it so much. If anyone's ever done this, you can't help the endorphins. You just want to keep training. and you go, I know I ran 10k yesterday, I know I ran 10k the day before, I want to go out again today. I run 10 kilometers every morning, I think 6-7 days a week for months on end, which obviously isn't going to be the best thing if you don't rest your body. I was training for a race. We then went to the UK because the race was in London, and we visited my in-laws who lived in Northumberland at the time, which is quite hilly, and we trained on the hills just a few days before the race, which probably contributed towards this, and I ended up with a stress fracture in my tibia. My tibia was actually cracked all the way through. I ran the race and couldn't, well, I did finish it. These two men helped me across the finish line because I was in excruciating pain. And then my husband had to get some crutches from Argos, like this thing, shop thing. Yes, just leave it at that. And then we had to get back from London on crutches, agonising. My doctor sent me for an x-ray and there was nothing there. She went, oh, it's just hurt, you've just, whatever, overtrained. It's no problem. I limped around for another week. I had to go to the office because I was freelance then, and if I didn't work, I wasn't going to get paid. 3rd floor, remember? Apartment, up and down, crutches every day. Office, other side of Munich. It was hard. It was really hard doing that. But I persevered because I am a very determined person and it takes a lot to stop me. And then I went back to the doctor and she sent me for an MRI scan, and that's where they saw the fracture, like cracked all the way through, saying you're lucky your bones didn't move. It was unbelievable. You need to have a cast immediately. So I had a cast on my leg for 6 weeks, had to go back to England while my brother got married in the meantime, which was, again, crutches, airport, wheelchair, pleasant experience. And then when I got back, or after I got my cast off, physio was great. I mean, again, because I was privately insured, I instantly had physical therapy. In England, you can wait weeks, by which point it's almost too late. So I've healed perfectly from it. I have a knee issue now, but that's just an old age cartilage thing. But it was great, but my doctor then sent me for another MRI scan to double check it had healed properly. I didn't sign this off with my medical insurance, assuming they would pay. Went for the scan, got the bill, it was about 800 euros, sent it off. They wrote to me going, no, you've exhausted your cost of these kind of things this year. There's a yearly budget for things. We will not cover this. So I had to find 800 euros, a lot of money 15 years ago, a lot of money today as well, to pay for this. And this has been an ongoing issue with them. I often don't check first. My kids recently had their teeth checked, then they had them cleaned as well. They didn't cover the cleaning, only the checking. So again, but we were there at the dentist. It's like, well, what? I can't check now. It takes them a month to get back to me every time I send in the paperwork. So I went, oh, of course they will. They're private. I pay for my kids because you pay for them separately as private insured people versus state where the kids are free. But I can't move to state because I earn too much money. So you can only go private if you earn over a certain amount of money a year. And then if you don't go below that, you can't opt out. Most freelance people are private because they offer special deals with freelance people. So when I was freelance, that was fine. I just stayed there. But again, my job after that, I mean, I've never earned below because it's not even that high, really, the limit. I think they've changed the laws recently because I did read that you can opt out. If you're under 55, you can still opt out. Once you're 55, you can never leave private again. So I've looked round to opting out. If it saves me money and the kids are free, I don't mind not being private. It's not benefiting me that much. Even having kids, I still went to a hospital with my first and shared a room with a woman who had a crying baby all night. And my second, I went to a midwife-led birthing centre that I think the state would have also covered. It wasn't even that expensive because they kicked us out after 2 hours and I was home within hours of giving birth. Much, much better experience. I will, if anyone's interested in that story, I can do a video on that at some point. It was night and day, the two experiences, like hospital, bullying, midwives and all that. And then the second one, which was just a blissfully beautiful birth. But again, they would have just been covered by the state, exactly the same service. I don't do extra special things. I had my gynecologist when I was pregnant. She was a private doctor, but she was a bully. She was absolutely horrible. I had to go every 3 weeks, have 3 vials of blood taken at least, sometimes up to 7 vials, weigh me, measure me. I didn't need it. I had no complications with either of my pregnancies, so I never went back to her after that. She tried to bully me into a hospital birth for my second as well, and I just ignored her completely. And everything was fine, you know. So you have to deal, ironically, they are nicer to you when you're private normally, apart from this lady. My husband has experienced both sides now that he's state insured, going to the same doctors. You get appointments faster. You can choose your doctors. The doctors have nice designer furniture, waiting rooms, coffee, tea, water. Ultimately, you get the same service, I would say. So I don't think it makes such a big difference unless you're going to live here for a long time, because private insurance doesn't have a cap and it can go up and up and up. And a lot of people, as they age, can't afford their medical insurance. It can be hundreds of euros a month. My employer pays half my insurance, doesn't pay half my kids' insurance. So it's a very large chunk of my monthly wages. And because I saw that I could maybe opt out, I looked into that recently. Because I earn over a certain amount, I'd actually be paying more each month than I do now in private. So it's not worth going state, which is also like, what's the point, right? So I've looked into it, but it's not going to be worth it for me. Also because I think we're not planning to be here forever. I don't want to jinx it, and I will never say never. I'll also never say forever. We didn't come here initially for 21 years. We came here for 2 years, maximum 5, and we're still here. But I do miss England a lot, and there are a lot of things about Germany that I can't see myself staying here for, because they rile me and they stress me out, and it's a very stressful place to live in many ways. So next is finding a place to live. Most people in Germany rent. There's definitely been a shift towards buying. People did used to buy quite often their house, their forever home. They'd build houses, buy a plot of land and build. We almost bought a plot of land when I lived here. My parents almost signed the dotted line and then chickened out. I think my mum did. My mum wanted to go back to England. So we lost that. I think that maybe even lost a deposit or something. But she didn't want to, because you'd be stuck there forever. And selling was almost impossible back then because nobody really bought. They'd buy the land, build the house, that was their house. The kids would then inherit that house. It's very different now. A lot of people buy their houses, buy flats. All these flats that are built in our neighbourhood, most of them are actually the Eigentumswohnungen, which are bought flats, and people are investing a lot more. They've understood that buying a place is actually better in the long term, depending obviously on interest rates. Tenants are protected here a lot. That's why people do rent often for a lifetime. We have neighbours. She's like a CEO of a company and he's a lawyer. They earn really good money and they rent. So it's very likely that they're, like many Germans, pay into some big pension fund. They rent so they don't have to look after their house, and the landlord deals with everything. And they're paying to a pension fund where they get a really good pension when they retire, which then covers their rent ongoing in their retirement. So this is a way they don't pay a mortgage and have to deal with their own house and repairs. And because you have tenants' rights, you can't be kicked out for no reason. Generally, you can be kicked out for Eigenbedarf, which is personal use. So if the landlord needs to move back in, or let's say a close relative, like one of his children wants to move in, they can then give you notice. But there are always ways around prolonging your notice period if you've got nowhere to live. Like I had a friend who was pregnant with her 3rd child, and they were given notice on their house, and they were there for many more months until they found a place to live, because she had 3 young children. She'd just given birth in between, and they legally couldn't just make her leave. I know in England they could just kick you out on the streets. In England as well, a lot of people have 1-year contracts, and after that year they either get terminated, you have to find another place to live, or they put the rent up astronomically. In this house, we've been here now just over 7 years, and they put it up after 6 years by 10%, because you can only put it up in alignment with the rental increases in your area or your city. I think it's the area actually. So you are protected there. There's the Mieterverein, which is an organisation you can join where you get free help. Well, you pay, so then you get free help, like a helpline, which a lot of people join, like a tenants association. It's a national thing. So you are protected. So a lot of people do rent. So once you are in a place, you're quite safe generally. Finding a place is the problem. A lot of people go for one place. There isn't much inventory in Munich for the people. There are a lot of flats that always come up, but each one will have so many people, dozens, sometimes even hundreds of people. And then you need to have good credit rating. You need to pay to get the credit rating report to send to your landlord. Proof of employment of more than 6 months. There's a lot that you need to have, and they quite often don't like foreigners because they think you're just going to scarper and not pay the rent or whatever. So it can, even when we first moved here, with a relocation company, with a corporate move, with a contract. I'd been there 3 years already, and the woman said, yes, it's this big US company, blah, blah, blah is the name. They've been around for 100 years. Our landlords were still a little bit wary and dubious about letting these two British people in, you know. There's definitely a bit of wariness. If it's justified, I can't really say. I'm sure plenty of people scalp her, whatever nationality they are, even Germans. But there's that. So once you find a place, then well done, congratulations. Oh, you can move in. You don't move on a Sunday because you can't make noise on a Sunday. Although people do, you know, depending on where you live in. Shops are shut on Sundays. It's just a day you can't cut the grass, you can't wash the car, none of those things. You can basically move in during the times when you're not meant to be silent. In the city, it's not so bad, but you wouldn't be doing it really late at night or first in the morning. Then again, if you ask your new neighbours, they may be okay. Yeah, sure, fine. We can drill on a Sunday if we ask our neighbours, hey, and then they do the same thing. So it does depend on your neighbourhood and on the people who live there. You can also clear the space on the road if you have a removal van. You have to pay for it, but you put signs out, no parking on these dates, and then you can have your van parked there. If you're lucky, you have a space where you don't need to do that. We've always just winged it and assumed that we could find somewhere. So when you get a place, we're going to go for unfurnished places. I know you have Airbnbs and furnished things for corporate people, maybe halfway, those hotels with little kitchens and things. Mostly you will rent an unfurnished place. And unfurnished means unfurnished. Unfurnished means no curtains, no lights. Like you will literally have wires hanging out of the ceiling where the light's meant to be, and you have no kitchen. Some places come with kitchens if they're just there, skanky old things, but you will not have a kitchen. I'm going to put a picture up here of what our kitchen looked like when we moved in. Well, when we looked at it, I took pictures when we looked at it. Literally pipes coming out the wall, nothing else, and then you have to buy a kitchen. So we had to pay, we normally pay about a 3-month deposit, and if you have an estate agent, they get I don't know. If let's say you pay $1,000 a month rent, a few hundred or 1,000, maybe pay them half a month's rent or something. It's quite a lot. Luckily we didn't with this house. We went direct with our landlord. I found it online, but literally no kitchen, nothing. And we paid insurance for our deposit, so we didn't pay the deposit, but we pay a certain amount a year into a fund which covers the amount that would be covered if we have damages or we move out. And then we put the cash that we'd saved for the deposit into buying a new kitchen, which is a wonderful kitchen. We went to IKEA because they are generally the cheapest and they can do the fastest. And we luckily got a slot within weeks of moving in, and we signed the contract middle of October, I think, to start 1st of November, but paid double rent for 2 months on that flat. So we didn't move into the 3rd week of November, so we could get this place ready, slowly move some things across and order the kitchen. So we only had about a week, I think, without a kitchen. We were really lucky. In our first flat, which was a brand new flat, which had nothing, I think we had to wait 3 months till we had our kitchen. We came over with 2 cats and we were washing up in the bathroom. We had just a fridge. My mum had given me a little old one. So we had that, which was good because it was midsummer. But it was really hard, just a couple with no kitchen. So with a kid and being pregnant, it would have been harder more than a week. A week was okay. I think we ate out and just had cold food, whatever. I can't remember. I was pregnant. Pregnancy brain at the time. So yeah, it was an interesting thing. And here's a really nice little story. We'd moved in, I think it was our 2nd or 3rd day. We had all the boxes in the kitchen of our kitchen stuff. My husband had gone back to the old flat to patch up all the holes and paint it a bit because you have to make it habitable before you move out. Otherwise they take all the deposit off you. And my daughter was sleeping upstairs. She was 2.5 at the time and she was having a nap upstairs, luckily. And I heard this gurgling and the toilet kept gurgling downstairs. A bit like the sound now. That's why I get a bit nervous when I hear that, because we have dodgy pipes. And I remember videoing the toilet and it was gurgling upwards and the colours changed a bit. It was going yellowy, then it went browny. I'm like, whoa, this is not good. Put the lid back down. Within half an hour, it was not only splattering on the toilet, I mean the lid, I kept the lid down, but the pipes in the kitchen literally backed up. All this sewage just came out on the floor, and it was only about this deep, only about this deep, but the floor was just being covered in it. And I stood there 7 months pregnant, like, you can't touch this stuff because it's very, very dangerous with the unborn child. My husband was at the old flat. I call him, he's like, I can't come. We didn't have a car at the time. I'm covered in paint and stuff. Basically say, call the landlord. Our landlord has a business not far from here, around the corner. Luckily they were there, it was a Saturday. They were around within 5 minutes, and her mother was staying as well, so there were 3 of them. They cleaned up the kitchen. She was like, you need to leave this room now, you need to get out. She was really cool about it. And it had touched the front of all the boxes. Luckily not the back ones, the front ones, which we literally had to throw everything out. Didn't even look what was in it. Everything went away. It was the most unpleasant, disgusting experience of my life, I think. It was so awful. The house stank. My daughter slept through all of it. She used to nap really badly. So in a way, I'm really, really thankful that she missed all that, because if she'd come down and stepped in it or something, it would have been horrendous. It took days to really air it and clean it. My husband, the next day, he disinfected that floor, I swear, about 20 times. Like, cleaned it, disinfected it. Any rags he used, any mops, everything was in the bin, in the bin, in the bin. And it still felt dirty. It still felt disgusting, even though we knew it was okay. And honestly, it was only once we had the kitchen fitted and the pipes were finally there and we disinfected the sink and made sure all the water was running clean. And this was, you know, a good week or 10 days later. I finally felt like the kitchen was clean. And it was actually a tree branch stuck in the pipes. They chopped down a massive tree out the front. And they even blamed my daughter. They said, did your daughter maybe put a toy car down the toilet? I went, no, she would not do that. And it was actually them having chopped down this tree that got caught in the pipes. So it was all sorted, but it was kind of stressful. And you need to go on with your landlord to be able to call them straight away. I just have WhatsApp, or they call us. But they're not that responsive, but that's okay, because we lay off and they lay off, and it's a very good relationship. So no complaints there. Yeah, so education is free. Schooling is free. Schooling is mandatory and it's free. You can't homeschool in Germany. This is something they brought in about 200 years ago, making education fair for girls and boys. But then people still didn't send their kids, especially girls, to school. So then they went, fine, we're going to make it mandatory for boys and girls to go to school. And that's basically how it is. And you need to also be vaccinated. So you can't really have non-vaxxers here, because you need to have a copy of your vaccination booklet everyone has to show you've had your MMR, measles, mumps, rubella vaccination and all those things. So regardless what side you're on, this is a fact in Germany. So our kids are fully vaccinated. And in school, getting a very good education. The school system is very good. It's very, very hard. I did another video, I will try and link above if I remember, about the school system. My daughter's about to head to secondary school. She gets her school report this Friday, and that will determine whether she can make it into grammar school. I'm 100% convinced she's completely fine on her grades. She was marked, everyone was marked down in the report they got in February to encourage them to work harder. And then she had the grades to get into grammar school. So I know she's got better grades since then, sort of A's and B's, equivalent 1s and 2s. But it's stressful, but it's free. If they feel you falling behind, even in the first year of school, they'll make you repeat that year. And this happens throughout your school system. If you're falling behind, you don't get the grades, you have to repeat that year. And even though this means that other kids go, oh, you know, you're not good enough, you've had to repeat the year, or you lose your friends, you have to make a new set of friends. Because it happens to so many, it's accepted. It just goes, oh, this kid, this boy, this girl has had to repeat the year. And that way kids don't generally fall behind in schooling. So you may finish school at 19 or 20 instead of 18, but you will have a better rounded education. I don't like the thought of it. I don't like the thought of having to repeat a year. I don't like the way they have all these tests, and it's really hard. But at the same time, I don't know, I would like to homeschool. That's my ideal thing. I would love to have homeschooled my kids. But A, it's not legal. B, I have a full-time job. It wouldn't have been feasible. But I support people that do, and I think homeschooling's great. But I also think it's a good school system. So we're making the best of what we have, and we have this amazing school, and we have a very good primary school close to us, because we do live in quite a good area, which we didn't look out for when we moved here. That wasn't on my agenda, which normal parents look out for. I just wanted a little house with a garden. And then afterwards went, oh, great, good school, lucky. Yeah, silly me. Yeah, kindergarten isn't free. Kindergarten here, you go from age 3 till 6. You pay, it's means tested. So it can be free if you're just on social and benefits or something. But then you might pay up to 100 or 200 a month, depending on how many hours your child does. We went to a half private forest kindergarten. Also, I'll try and remember to link that when I talked about it. 3 years in the forest, outdoors every single day, even in winter, was the best for our kids. They thrived, they absolutely thrived there. It was the best start for them. Better than an indoor place where kids are screaming and plastic toys are fighting over it. They didn't fight so much because there's a bigger space and they're outdoors and they're in nature and they're making toys out of sticks and things. But that's that other video. You can watch that if you're interested. So it was good experience. School is free and good, depending how you look at it. You know, strict and hardworking, but they're tiered as well. But you can, if you're more interested for the deep dive on that, the tiered system, you know, secondary school, you will go to the school that academically suits you. University is also free. You pay some fees, like admin costs every semester, but the education is free. You don't pay school fees. In England, I didn't pay school fees at university. They phased it out as I was there. I got a grant even. So education was free and I had a grant. So my costs were covered, my rent costs. Not my living costs, but my rent costs were. And I didn't have to pay for my fees. Very, very lucky. I believe in free education. I think everyone should have a free education. And I also think everyone should have free health service, like in the UK. Unfortunately, it's not working that well in the UK. It's overloaded and underfunded. But in principle, it's the best system. And I wish everyone could have free education and free health system. It's a basic human right, as far as I'm concerned, a basic human right. So culture, people and fitting in. This is, I guess, probably the longest, but I could do 10 videos on this one. As I said, I have spent 16 years in England, in the UK, and 33 years in Germany. I am as British as they come. I miss the pubs, I miss the seaside, I miss just hearing nice English voices, I miss the nice friendliness in restaurants and cafes and supermarkets. People not scowling at you all the time, nice drivers letting you go, not cutting you up all the time, beeping their horns. You can't do middle finger or anything because they can call the police on you. But they can do that. That's like, are you stupid? Or they yell at you, or things like that. So there's an aggression that I find very difficult to deal with. Aggression with people who are angry, driving, people walking on the path. Just in general, they're much more serious. There is a sense of humour. People talk about Germans not having a sense of humour. They have a great sense of humour if you're dealing with it in German. If they try and say a joke in English, it doesn't work. You learn a language, try and tell a joke in that language, it probably wouldn't be funny. So actually, if you switch into German mode, then actually they're very funny. It's a very funny nation and a very funny culture. But only once you get really ingrained, you get it. When you get to know people who are really nice and great, they can be really nice people, but it's hard to fit in, it's hard to make friends. I find it hard to make friends anyway, I always have. I do shy away, I'm very much of a loner and I like my time by myself. The last thing I want to do is make lots of friends and go out and hang out with them, but I do have some friends. I'm in a book club, an English-speaking book club, so mostly American or British people, a German and Australian. We have all different nationalities in there, but again, not German. I shy away from that. If I go to a women's circle, they're always in English. Yoga classes, I always went and chose English ones. I don't know why. I have no problem with German. Obviously, I'm bilingual, but the feel in my heart is I want to experience this in my language, the language of my heart, just how I feel and how I emotionally respond to it. It's a strange concept and I can't quite put my finger on why that is, but I feel more comfortable just doing things in English. I feel I relax more. Maybe my husband commented about this before. When I speak English, I have a certain mannerism and gentleness and my voice is a certain pitch. When I switch to German, my voice gets a little bit lower, my face changes a little bit and I get a little bit more aggressive. Like you embody the culture with your language, and that is the beauty of becoming bilingual or speaking a language fluently. It's not just about speaking the language, it's embodying the culture that comes with the language, which unfortunately is being quite aggressive here quite often. So I go to London and my sister will tell me to stop pushing my way onto a bus and you know, elbowing people out of the way and scowling at people. So, you know, I have that passive aggressiveness of a German, or not quite aggressive, it's more passive aggressive. And it's hard to put my finger on it, you know. I am a bit crouchish. I used to be very crouchish as a kid. I was a German kid. So you can't beat that out of me too much, but I can get away with being very British. And my kids, despite growing up here, you wouldn't know they live in Germany. You would know when they switch to German, but English is their mother tongue, and we watch mostly English TV, and they play computer games in English as well. So, but they go to German schools, they're completely integrated. So it's a very interesting way seeing them growing up with the internet and globalization the way I didn't, and still being very British despite having the German influence. Whereas I was very German because we lived in a little German village with no British influence apart from my parents. And frankly, parents are boring when you're a kid, right? I know I am, as my daughter tells me frequently. I'm so boring. You're so boring, mummy. All you want to do is light candles and read books. So that's a win. Yes. Read books. I love reading. I love reading so much. They'll often sit here watching TV and I'll be next to them reading my book. I can zone out completely and just get into it. Reading is the best. I'm glad I rediscovered reading after many years out. Yes, punctuality, not my strongest point, not my finest moments many times. If you're invited to a party in Germany that starts at 7 p.m, you better be there at 10 to 7 for a 7 p.m. start. If you arrive after 7, then you're late. Now, if I hosted a party starting at 7 p.m, and if anyone arrived at 10 to 7, I wouldn't be showered or changed. I'd be doing last minute tidying and panicking because people will be arriving from 7 o'clock. So you need to know that, and after all these years I still don't get it right. I will always be somewhere from that time and everyone else is there already. And even book club, it's funny because there's only one German lady who's very Anglified anyway, and everyone else, and you can see the ones who've been here the longest because they're always there dot on 8 or 8:30 when we meet. And then there's people like me who kind of amble in at 9 o'clock or something going, sorry, had to get the kids to bed, had to whatever, finish the book. So but then it's okay because everyone else is like that as well. But you do any event, or even a school event, a school fete starts at 2 p.m. on a Friday for the summer school fete. Everyone's there at 1:30 or quarter to 2. I'm like, why are you here before it starts? Well, because it starts at 2 o'clock. You must be here. You must be here for when it starts. Okay. And we get there 2:15 and half the cakes are gone. Everyone's done the activities, and by 2:30 they're gone. I'm just okay. So some things you just can't get your head around. Punctuality doesn't mean on time. It means you have to get there early to get there on time. The language. Now, most people, especially in Munich, speak English, really, really good English. They say, oh, I only speak a little English, and then go into a big tirade that is basically a thesis quality English language. I mean, very good English. I spoke German, like, I grew up in Germany, I'm bilingual. I did have kind of a child's German, so I did have to learn the adult way of speaking. But my husband didn't speak any German. I think he did a bit in school, but nothing to write home about. He basically couldn't speak German to people because they always answered back in English. And he did courses where he'd study and then he'd try and apply it. Supermarket, bar, restaurant, anywhere, even talking to strangers on the train. And they will always respond to you in English because they want to practice their English. They think they're helping you out because you're struggling in German. And then after 10 years, people turn around and go, you've been here 10 years. Why is your German so bad? Well, because you wouldn't speak to me in German. And since we've been here, it's been better because a lot of our neighbours will only speak to him in German. There's a gentleman next door who doesn't speak good English. He only speaks in German, which is great. We've got the old gentleman there. He's out all day, every day in his garden. He's in his 90s. He's amazing. Speaks no English. Really Bavarian old guy, and he's cool. And he will call to him. So yes, making friends isn't great. Isn't easy, but if you really do want to, you can join groups, join a Verein, which is like a sports society, loads of them around, any sport you like, and you will make friends that way. We did that when I was kids. We joined all these different things as kids, and my parents as well. My mum played tennis, and she's still got friends from 70s and 80s. She still has friends she made back then. So if you want to make friends, you can. If you're like me, you shy away, not so easy. Large cities are also harder. If you live in a smaller community, I think it's easier to make friends. Now, the last bit and the best bit is food, nature and fun. Food is great if you like German or Bavarian food. I'm only really speaking about Bavaria because we haven't travelled that much around Germany. You do have a some different meals. I mean, Frankfurt has some great foods. I love Frankfurt. We almost moved there about 12 years ago when I was offered a job there, but then things changed and we stayed here. It's Munich's very meat-based still. It's over the 20 years we've been here, it's got much better with the options they serve. When I was a teenager and I was vegetarian for 8 years, and I was here as a student for a year, you couldn't get vegetarian foods. I mean, it just wasn't an option. We get potato salad with bits of bacon in it, and they will just pick out the bits of bacon. Now you've got a lot of vegan restaurants. Veganism has really taken off here. My little 7-year-old, he's a vegetarian. He doesn't like the thought of killing animals and eating animals, which I support because I was vegetarian for many years. We don't eat that much meat. So the options are there. Insane amounts of vegetarian options, veggie mince and veggie burgers. I'm not a big fan of veggie options. I'd rather either eat meat or not meat. But at least that's there for him. We could make a vegetarian chili, for example, or bolognese, and he will sort of eat it. He's a bit fussy, but then we're also not eating too much meat because it's not good to eat meat, health-wise, environmentally wise. But I don't like ultra-processed food, so I'd rather just, put lentils in to bulk it out or something. Food, yes, can be good. We don't eat out like we used to. Like I said, we used to eat out a lot, really a lot, like 3 times a week or something, because it was cheap, sometimes cheaper than cooking a meal for 2 of you. And we were lazy, and we both worked a lot, especially when I was freelance. I worked 7 days a week, because the more I worked, the more I got paid, and it becomes a bit addictive. I'm glad to have a 9 to 5 with paid holiday now. It's the best for me, because it gives me time to do things like YouTube videos, and it gives me mental rest. I can read, I can do the house. I have so much I need to do. Washing, cleaning kitchen, just general housework, right? Sorting stuff out, looking after kids. I look after them at weekends because my husband works Saturdays, so I have to do a lot more on my own, especially on Saturdays. Finances, paperwork, I deal with all that because I speak the language better. It's a huge mental load. It's a physical load of doing all the physical things, but the huge mental load of remembering things. Today my daughter was back at school, but she didn't have school. They're going to some music day trip thing, so she only needed a small rucksack with a snack in it. She remembered it luckily, but it's those things, don't send your kid to school with their school bag when they just need a small rucksack, because their school bags are heavy and full of books, really, these satchels. Beer, obviously, is a big thing of Germany. Beer and sausages, land of beer and sausages. The beers used to be great. I used to love it. I used to drink a lot of it. Munich has 6 main breweries, Augustina being the most popular. They launched an alcohol-free beer last year, which was really popular. It sold out in all the supermarkets for weeks after that. I don't drink beer anymore, very rarely, because it gives me huge anxiety. I can't handle it. Food is great, yeah, if you eat out, even you buy, supermarkets sell everything. The smaller ones, not everything. The bigger ones, everything. You can find what you want. We cook mostly from scratch. I was raised by a family cooking from scratch. My dad was diabetic, type 1. My mum had to weigh everything to make sure he had the right portions. It was much more difficult to control your blood sugar back then. So I make my husband cook from scratch. He likes his takeaways sometimes, and we get takeaways sometimes, but it's just not my thing. It makes me sick. I have a massive intolerance to MSG, monosodium glutamate, and it makes me really sick if I eat it, especially mixed with alcohol. Like, I will be throwing up for at least a day. I'll have the worst migraine for 48 hours. I can't function with it. So another reason to eat healthier, pure, the whole thing just doesn't work for me. And it's quite easy here because most restaurants, well, they used to be better. As with globalization, they do bring in more processed things. It used to be purer, but again, we don't really eat out much. So what do I know? I just know what's in my kitchen and my fridge. Nature is a huge part of society here. Everyone has a bike. All the kids start cycling at age 2 or 3, and you see these tiny little kids on bikes just pedaling along on the pavement. My daughter recently did her cycling proficiency in school, so she can now legally cycle on the road. You're not allowed to cycle on the road until you've passed that age 9 or 10. Obviously wearing a helmet is mandatory, and I wear a helmet anyway because I don't want to die. I do have dependents. I did fall off my bike 18 months ago when I used to cycle to work, and I fell on my shoulder, and it's still not healed completely. I can feel a little bit here, but it's pretty much healed. I'm still paying off the medical bills that weren't covered, but it's good. I can raise my arms, I can lift things, I can function like a normal human being. It's not 100%, but better than when it happened. So cycling obviously can be dangerous. We spent 3 weeks cycling through India 11 years ago. So if you can do that, you can definitely do the streets of Munich. You have cycle paths in most places. They're quite respectful of cyclists. It's actually the cyclists who aren't respectful of pedestrians or cars, and they will run people over. They will scream at you because they think they're on the road. They're called Radl Rambos, which is cycling Rambos. Really shouty people that will smack your car if you're in the way of something. So I try to be a nice cyclist because I'm not very confident really, especially since it's my fall. But yeah, my daughter can now cycle to school alone, which is a big brave thing because I always walked with her or cycled with her until like 4 weeks ago. So and off she went this morning. I went, bye mummy, and I could see her speeding down the road. And me and my little guy, I went on my bike today and he went on his scooter rather than walking, and he was really good on the scooter. No cycling yet. He can ride a bike, but it's too wobbly, and we have to go on the roads to school anyway, so not ideal. But people go on bike rides. They cycle to the lakes in summer, where you can swim in most lakes. They're all clean. They're checked at least once a week. It's free for everyone. Swimming pools, at the moment the outdoor swimming pools are free for kids. They have been since Corona, so we have to pay quite a bit if you want to go to the indoor pool in winter, but in summer just pay for the adults and the kids can just spend all day. So yep, and the last thing will be beer gardens. I should have included this with the food bit. Beer gardens in Bavaria maybe only have a special law, which is that you can bring your own food. This was brought in many years ago where poor people couldn't afford to eat out, but they still wanted everyone to have the same rights to be able to go to a beer garden. It's a very socialist country in many ways. It's not socialist, but also is at the same time. And you can take your food with you to a beer garden, and as long as you buy the drinks, you can eat whatever you want. People will bring tablecloths. I've seen people with champagne glasses, and obviously they then have to buy wine or something to put in it, but champagne flutes, and they've bought candelabras even. They have birthday parties, they just have dinners with friends, kids' birthday parties, grown-up birthday parties, family meetups, really beautiful things. We'll go sometimes with like a container of potato salad and I don't know, something else, but then we'll buy maybe a big pretzel. You can get giant pretzels at beer gardens. And the drinks, or you just buy all the food. It depends on your finances. If you can be bothered to make food, take it with you. If you're cycling, are you going by public transport, having to carry it? Often you can't park that well, so there's no point driving. People don't drive to these places because then you can't drink either, right? If you're going to get a litre of beer, you're definitely not going to be driving home after that. So it's a great thing because it's a very people-orientated country. You're encouraged to do things outdoors. In winter, people go skiing, they go ice skating on the canal when it freezes. We used to go ice skating on our local lake in our village, and it's great. People do outdoor stuff in summer. Well, also winter, you have the Christmas markets. Everyone goes there, drinks glühwein, wanders around. In summer, you've got, like I said, the lakes. You go swimming, you go hiking. You just have an outdoor lifestyle, cycling, bike trips. Just great, really, really great. In England, people don't tend to go out so much because there's not much to do. They don't have outdoor pools really. You have some Lidos in nicer areas. In Hampton, there's a nice one in London, but it's a bit posh, and how do you get there if you don't live close? But it's expensive to live close. So it's unfortunately a prosperity thing as well. Here, they really try to let everyone have the same equal rights, and it shows because most people can do the same things as those with or without money. So it's important. I think it's very important to look after your people better than in some countries. Not naming all the countries, but there are quite a few that I could name. There's so many more things I could say. These are just, it's the tip of the iceberg really, but these are just some things I hope you found interesting. Didn't have so much of my own personal things in it. I kind of wanted to maybe a little bit, but some facts. If you've got any questions, you can just put them in the comments below. If there's any videos you want me to make about specific subjects, I can do that. I am actually a fountain of knowledge when it comes to living in Germany. We go into the city of Munich, I'll tell people about the history of this, history of that, this, there. Because I've been here so long, I've spoken to so many people who've been here even longer than me, who've there left, and now I'm the person who's been here the longest. Longevity does count for something. So yes, let me know. Have you lived in Germany? Have you had the same experiences? Am I completely off the mark? Is it just my personal warped experience? I don't know. It's just my experience. So let me know. And one day I think I will go back to England. It's definitely not going to be here forever. I might do a video about all the things I love about Germany. and maybe also a video about all the things I don't love about Germany, which may be a bit longer than the other one, but maybe not, because I do like quite a lot of things. So thank you for watching. I'm sorry if this video is really long. It might just be me waffling long and no real content. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.